Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our 2013 NFL team preview. We're taking a look at the Buffalo Bills. We're going to break down their offense, their defense, as well as their special teams to see what we can expect from the Bills this upcoming season.
The most important position in football has been the biggest question mark for the Bills since Jim Kelly retired. They've signed Kevin Kolb in the offseason, and they've also drafted E.J. Manuel in the first round. In 6 years as a pro, we've already seen what Kevin Kolb can and will bring to the table, and in my honest opinion, he's maxed out. So that's why I would start E.J. Manuel. With Manuel back there, you get the athleticism from the quarterback position, which in turn will open up your entire offense. When you have a guy that's a threat to run the football back there in the pocket, it forces the defensive front to be less aggressive because they don't want to get out of position. It also opens up the running game even more, and that is not to say Manuel is a guy that's running around like Michael Vick. It's just to say that he has that running element to his game. Now, as far as throwing the football is concerned, I think you're going to see a better and more consistent E.J. Manuel than what you saw at Florida State. A lot of that was due to the system and the coaching that he got down in Tallahassee. Also, keep an eye on undrafted rookie free agent Jeff Toole out of Washington State. Tremendous talent that struggled to stay healthy during his time in Pullman, but the athleticism is there, the arm strength is there, and enough talent is there for Toole to stick as the number 3 quarterback. This is a very solid group of running backs led by C.J. Spiller, who's a special talent. Last season, Spiller went over 1,000 yards for the first time in his career at a whopping 6 yards a carry. He's also a deadly weapon as a receiver coming out of the backfield, catching for almost 500 yards, which is why I compared him to Marshall Faulk coming out of college, due to what he can bring to an offense as far as running and receiving. And his numbers should increase this year as he's going to come into the season as the guy for the first time in his career. And there's great depth behind these guys, in my opinion. 7-year vet Fred Jackson returns, as well as Tashard Choice, both of whom can contribute in the passing game as well. Keep an eye on rookie undrafted free agent Drew Smith out of Albany. Saw a lot of his games because we cover a lot of FCS here at Football Gameplan, and he has a solid chance to win a spot on the roster as a fullback. Smith was an outstanding and versatile runner for the Great Danes throughout the course of his collegiate career. The Buffalo Bills have the best receiving core in the AFC East by far. When you look at Stevie Johnson, the first Bills wide receiver to post 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, he's going to get the help that they sorely needed for him with Robert Woods. They drafted out of USC, a guy that's an ideal number 2 or number 3 wide receiver. You put him in a slot, you throw him one of those bubble screens or a crosser, he has the speed to take it the distance. They also add Marquise Goodwin out of Texas, a speedster that can stretch the defense and can also help out as a returner. And keep an eye on undrafted rookie free agent Derek Rogers out of Tennessee Tech, formerly of the University of Tennessee. He has the skills to be a number 1 wide receiver at the split, which would slide everyone down to a more natural position. Stevie Johnson, in my opinion, would be an ideal number 2/flanker. You move Robert Woods in the slot. That gives you a potent 3 wide receiver attack. And also keep an eye on undrafted free agent as well, Brandon Kaufman out of Eastern Washington, that covered a lot of his games. This is a guy that can play in the slot as well as a bigger target at 6'4.5", 195 pounds. And at the tight end position, one of the more underrated tight ends in the league in Scott Chandler, a guy that's going to come back from injury, but they do have some help alongside of him with Chris Gragley, drafted out of Arkansas. Has a lot of LG Crumpler-like skills, maybe a little bit of an H-back, as well as Dorian Dickerson, a guy that was a former wide receiver in college, moved to tight end in the National Football League, and is moving back to tight end after playing fullback the last couple of seasons. So they're solid here at the receiving core. They need the consistency from the quarterback position, but the talent is here for the Bills to definitely be successful. The Buffalo Bills did a fine job up front, and there's no reason why they can't do the same in 2013. Gone is Adam Levitre, one of the best guards in the league. He left via free agency. But when you look at what they have on the roster, it seems the coaching staff was very happy with the stable of guys they have. They didn't draft any offensive linemen. And when you look at last year's second-round pick, Cordy Glenn, he did a phenomenal job at left tackle, considering that was his biggest question mark coming out of college and into the draft. They question whether or not he had the foot speed to play the left side. Did a great job not only pass blocking but anchoring the running game. The Bills were able to run off tackle a lot, especially to the weak side of the formation. And on the opposite side, they have Eric Pierce, who's back 100%, and that's just going to help that running game out even more so this year. Last year, he played through various injuries and wasn't at his full strength. On the interior, a lot of talent still remains on this roster with Craig Urbick, one of the more underrated guards, as well as Eric Wood at center. The big battle will be at the other guard position. There's about 3 guys battling for that spot. Sam Young, Keith Williams, Chris Scott, all guys have a chance to win that other guard position, and they still have some good solid swing tackles in Chris Harrison and Zebry Sanders up front. A lot of depth on this offensive line that could have similar outputs to the 2012 season. We know the Bills have talent to get after the quarterback with Mario Williams, who led that defensive front with 10.5 sacks. You also have Marcel Darius and Kyle Williams, both guys combined for 11.5 sacks. But the question is, can they stop the run? Last year, they were 31st in the league in run defense, giving up almost 146 yards a game. Now they're moving to a bit of a 3-4 hybrid type of defense under Mike Petting coming over from the New York Jets. They're going to have to get better in that run defense department if they want to get to where they want to go at the end of the season. There's still a lot of talent. Like I mentioned, Darius and Williams. They bring over Alan Branch from the Seattle Seahawks. Alex Carrington is a guy that at 6'5", 301 pounds can play that 5 technique position. So there's going to have to be an attitude change up front. Remember, stopping the run is all about heart and want to. You got to want to stop the run. If they can't do that, then everything else they're trying to build behind them won't be effective. It's no question that the Bills have to get better at the linebacker position, and a team that's transitioning from the 4-3 to the 3-4 usually is going to take a former defensive lineman and transition him to an outside edge rusher, and that guy for the Bills is Mark Anderson, who came over last year as a free agent from the New England Patriots. I like the potential of that matchup versus a left tackle down in, down out for Anderson. He can get back to his pass rushing ways. They also bring over Manny Lawson from the Cincinnati Bengals, a guy that's versatile enough to play with his hand in the ground and also as an outside rusher and can drop back in coverage. The Bills also made a trade for Jerry Hughes, who I'm still holding out hope for that he reverts back to his TCU days that made him one of the most feared pass rushers in the country. And Brian Scott is a guy that plays the backer position similar to the way they play it in the CFL, where he's primarily a defensive back and used for coverage, but he has a skill set to play close to the line of scrimmage because he can aid in the running game. On the interior, in the second round, the Bills drafted Kiko Alonso, a heat-seeking missile out of Oregon. This guy is an A-gap penetrator and is there specifically to rush the passer. He's going to be teamed up next to Nigel Bradham, who in my opinion will be pushed for that starting spot by Keith Pugh out of Howard. This is a guy at the East-West Shrine game, saw him up close and personal, was a leader all week long, can play outside, can also play inside, and can drop back in cover. So I think he gives the Bills exactly what they want at that inside backer position. Once again, just like last year, I like the talent back there in the Bills secondary. Now, finding the right combination, the right mix to make it a cohesive unit is what they're going to have to focus on this upcoming season. You have to be impressed with what you saw last year out of rookie Stephon Gilmore. Did a fine job last year, matches up well versus tight ends as well as wide receivers, and you have to be encouraged with what he's going to bring to the table in 2013. Now, the opposite corner is where I have the question. You have Leotis McKelvin, who was a former first-round pick and is an outstanding returner. He's the starter. They re-signed him, but he's going to be competing with Ron Brooks, who I think is going to give him a hell of a fight for that starting position, because Ron Brooks is a guy I think could do very well as a starter. So keep an eye on that battle in camp. And when you look at the nickel cornerback position, you look at Justin Rogers out of Richmond, a guy that has improved this game each and every year. But keep an eye on undrafted rookie free agent Nikhil Roby out of USC. Maybe on the lighter side, but this is a guy that definitely is scrappy, can mix it up with wide receivers, and has ball skills that you look for at that position. Now, at the safety position, you know there's sound with Jarius Byrd, one of the best safeties in the league, premier ball hawks back there eliminating mistakes. The other question is, who can step up and play that other safety position? They have the Norris Searcy, a third-year player out of North Carolina. You have Aaron Williams, the most intriguing prospect they have back there. Here's a guy that can't play corner. Some say he's a better safety. I think he is a better safety, but he does give you that versatility. You got to find the right fit for him because he definitely has some skill set. They drafted Duke Williams out of Nevada in this year's draft, another guy that can play corner or safety. So they're going for the more versatile guys that can give you that flexibility in your defense, and getting more pressure up front easily will help out the back end in that secondary. quietly, the Bills drafted the best kicker in the country in Dustin Hopkins, who will compete with Ryan Lindell for that kicking job. Lindell is a longtime vet. Hopkins is a guy that's a very accomplished player coming out of Florida State. And we look at Sean Powell, the punter, had an outstanding rookie season and is looking to build on that in 2013. Now, as far as the return game is concerned, they're in good hands with Leotis McKelvin, but keep an eye on rookie Marquise Goodwin out of Texas. Again, the speedster that will excel on special teams, especially as a kickoff returner. Anytime you get a new head coach, a new regime, you have to be optimistic, and the Buffalo Bills got themselves a good coach in Doug Marrone. They drafted a new quarterback in E.J. Manuel that gives the fans some hope for the future, and he's a guy that has unique skill sets. Defensively, there's a lot of talent across the board on that defensive line and in the secondary, and they made strides to get better at the linebacking core. So if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you have to be optimistic. On the flip side, the cause for concern will be defensive coordinator Mike Petty and getting that defensive personnel up and ready to go from day one. He's going to ask a lot of those guys. Sometimes you're going to have to do two things. And if those guys are slow to pick up the system, it could be a struggle in the early part of the season for the Bills. Now let's take a look at what the Bills have. Number one, they have a game breaker at running back. That's going to always keep you in every ball game because you can control the clock and he has the potential to take it the distance. They also are strong on both sides of the line of scrimmage. You got to win up front in order to win the game of football, and they have a very underrated group of wide receivers who I think can have the potential to be explosive and personnel in the secondary to make plays on the ball. Now, what they lack is a reliable second corner opposite of Stephon Gilmore. There's talent, but it's unproven. They got to find someone to step up and be a consistent player week in, week out, as well as an impact linebacker. That's another lacking part of their defense. There's a quarterback question. Who's going to be the starter, Kevin Kolb or the rookie E.J. Manuel? My suggestion, start the rookie. You struggle in the early part of the season, very early in the part of the season, because the guy will get better with every game he plays. You do not get better by sitting on the bench. The road to the Super Bowl for the Buffalo Bills goes as follows. Number one, they have to get consistent play from the quarterback position. That goes without saying. That run defense has to improve in order for these guys to be successful. And finally, they have to learn how to finish games. This is a team that can be in a lot of games. They had a lot of games won last season over the last couple of seasons, but they have to learn how to finish in order to be successful. I actually think the Bills finish first in the AFC East. I think they start E.J. Manuel. They're going to be able to run the football. They have a lot of talent at the receiver position. They just needed someone to be consistent from that QB spot. And when you have a guy like E.J. Manuel with unique skill sets, he can learn on the fly. Defensively, I think moving to the 3-4 will make these guys a little bit more aggressive. They're going to put guys in position. So overall, I think the Bills have enough talent right now on the roster to make a push for the AFC East crown and break that playoff drought that has plagued them since 1999. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Bills fan forums for always showing football game plan support.